Hello, everyone, and welcome back to More Than a Muse. I'm Stauney.
And I'm Sadie. I am so excited to be here to share about the artists that I learned about this month. Happy Black History Month.
Even though everyone's taking it off the calendars, we still celebrate here.
We do. We 100% do.
Yes.
And I know that earlier this month you talked about
Octavia Butler.
You talked about Octavia
Yes.
Butler. And now today I'm talking about Linda Martell, who, if you don't know who Linda Martell is, maybe you do, because Beyonce shouted her out in her Album of the Year acceptance speech when she won that for Cowboy Carter, which, side note, we didn't really talk about the Grammys
we didn't really.
on the podcast. People were and still are very upset that she won for that album.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, I want to know what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I have like a couple of minds about it. First off, I do not understand the criticism that it shouldn't have won Country Album of the Year. It definitely was Country Album of the Year. And if you're going to get mad about her being in country, then where's all the hate for Post Malone being in country?
I agree.
Just saying.
Yes.
So I was totally fine with that one. I saw a lot of discourse about that where it was like, shouldn't have been Country Album of the Year. And I was like,
why not?
Should have.
That is the country album that people definitely talked about the most.
Yes. But yeah, for Album of the Year, I had like a couple of thoughts. Like, obviously, I do think she deserves that award after everything she's done for the music industry. But like, it was a stacked year. And out of all of them, would I have picked that as like the greatest masterpiece album of all of the ones that were nominated? No, because Rise and Fall of the Midwest Princess was nominated.
Yeah, I was going to ask what your pick would have been. Because I think a lot of people are upset that Billie Eilish's album didn't win.
That's true. I saw a lot of love for Billie Eilish. She has won it.
That's kind of why I'm like, well, she got it. And she won Song of the Year last year for What Was I Made For. I thought that was deserved. She's won a lot of Grammys. Did you like Billie's Hit Me Hard and Soft album?
I don't think I listened to the whole thing. I know that's terrible.
No, that's how I feel too. Everyone loves the album. And I just don't know if maybe just Billie isn't for me particularly. I don't know.
I love
Billie. I recognize how
during
incredible she is.
When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? She was probably one of my top artists.
Wow.
Like, I was obsessed with that album. Happier Than Ever, I kind of really only listened to the title track. And then like Haley's Comet was good. But yeah, Hit Me Hard and Soft, I don't know. I downloaded it. I intended to. I don't think I really listened. I didn't really feel compelled. I was more stuck on Gracie's album this year, which was like kind of a new one for me. But Chapel Roan took over our entire year last year. So
I know like Birds of a Feather was like her big song.
Yeah, that's true. And I've heard that one.
Yeah, I don't.
Billie writes good albums. It was great music.
No, she's an incredible musician.
Yeah,
I've never fixated on any of her albums, but I have fixated on songs of hers.
Yeah. When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go is kind of a masterpiece.
A little bit outside of her age demographic.
I think you need to listen to that one, like that one altogether.
That's a good album.
She won Album of the Year for that one, didn't she?
She did. And Best New Artist and Song and Record of the Year for that one.
Yeah, like that was an amazing era for Billie. Short and Sweet was really great. That one I probably knew more about and took over a little bit more than a lot of the others. I actually listened to Cowboy Carter multiple times.
Me too.
So yeah, it was a good album.
Yeah, I was very happy with the fact that it won. I loved that album. I revisit a lot of songs on that album. I think a pretty like common things like, oh, well, she should have just won it for Lemonade or for Renaissance.
Yeah.
And so maybe this is like the Grammys way of being like, sorry.
Yeah,
whatever.
and I did see a lot of people kind of saying that it was almost like Leo's Oscar, that like he won it for a movie that everyone was kind of like, was that the best role of his career? No, but he didn't win it for Titanic.
At least now he has an Oscar.
Yeah. So I kind of thought that was a little bit of what happened. Like, it's not that the album wasn't deserving.
Yeah,
exactly. I have seen a lot of people talk about the fact that like Taylor Swift has never won Song of the Year or Record of the Year.
Yeah.
And no one really talks about that, but there was like a huge fuss about Beyonce never winning Album of the Year. And I know it's like the most coveted award. But the fact of the matter is, like, I saw someone bring up a comparison that was like, some artists write really good songs and records, and some people write really good albums.
Yeah.
I think Taylor's a little bit more of like a full encompassing. Yeah, because she never nominates the right song for sing. Like
That's
Cruel
Taylor
Summer
Swift's
was
problem.
never up. Like she just
she was not gonna win song or record of the year with Fortnite. I loved that song.
I love Fortnite
admittedly.
too.
I
was not hating on it.
Album.
I loved that song. I thought it was phenomenal. But it's not record or song of the year.
It was not good.
So I think that that's kind of something to look into as well, is that like an album is like a whole encompassing piece of work, like all together collectively. And I just think some people are more likely to get that than others. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Like,
no. I mean, Beyonce is the most Grammy award-winning woman of all time. Like,
exactly.
I think she's gotten her flowers, but I do understand the point of being like, with all that, she's never won one of the big four. That's
and
weird.
To be fair, there was
weird.
One year
Grammys
that I think someone brought up that we don't even know who won. The winner isn't really even relevant anymore, and so she probably should have won that year.
Yeah. There's a lot of times where it's, Beyonce definitely should have won that one. And you know what? I'm personally very okay with us going back and apologizing for the things that we've done wrong.
Yeah,
and trying to fix it. I'm fine with that.
That's fully. American history, you know?
Yeah. We got to do that, I think. A little bit better.
Beck's mourning phase.
I remember, and hashtag who's Beck was trending on Twitter, because why did they win Album of the Year that year?
So she lost with her self-titled album Beyonce to Beck's mourning phase in 2015. That one should have been hers. And then the other one was like Harry's House and Renaissance.
And then Adele, when Adele won for 25, and then went up during her acceptance speech and said, Beyonce should have won for Lemonade.
Yeah, I know. Lemonade was so good, but I'm like, Adele's 25 did kind of... Those ones were close.
I love that album.
Yeah.
We're great.
But she's only ever lost to Taylor Swift once, which I like to remind people about because they always pit them. And like I just did in my comparison, because I feel like they're always nominated. Yeah. But yeah, she's only lost once, and that was Taylor Swift's Fearless for I Am Sasha Fierce. So honestly, 2015 probably should have been hers. Renaissance against Harry's House. I don't know. I probably would have picked Renaissance.
I actually did not like that Harry Styles album. That's my hot take.
I liked a couple of songs, but it wasn't. I don't know. I probably would have picked Renaissance over Harry's House if it was between those two. I was a huge Midnight's fan though, so because she did win. That
was her fourth.
Yeah, because I was like, wait a second.
Which was surprising to me, actually, that she got Album of the Year.
I loved Midnights.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm never going to be mad for my fave winning. Even if I don't think she deserves it, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah. But I mean, I get it. I understand where the frustration comes from. I do think it was like about time, but I did think it was kind of a really stacked year. So I was like a little bit hesitant. Because Brat, too?
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like with Cowboy Carter, though, I've seen people, it's not even that good. It's not...
Oh, it's phenomenal.
Genuinely shut up. Like, it's actually, in my opinion, so objectively good. Like,
yes.
It's very... You can tell how thoughtful it is. And personally, I don't think the experimentation of the genre makes it not a country album, because every country artist is adding trap beats to their country songs now. Yeah. So, like...
She's from Houston, Texas. Like,
she's
give me a
literally
break.
From Texas. And also, like, it seems like she got the cosigns. She has Willie Nelson. She has Linda Martell and Dolly Parton on those albums. So, like, give me a break and sit down.
I don't think any of the older legacy country stars are throwing a fit about this. Everyone's fine with it.
Also, why would you be mad if there's more eyes on your genre? Like, if you want country music to be treated more legitimately, and the most legitimate awarded artist in the world is coming to partake in your genre, that's gonna help you. Anyways, I know this album has now come out almost a year ago. Well, yeah. Absolutely. But like, it just still pisses me off so bad.
No, I get it. Because even like bringing it back to like a more relevant, timely moment with Kendrick and the whole thing with the Super Bowl. And so many people being like, this isn't music, like turn it off. And it's just like, how old are we? Like, rap has been around for how long now? Like, are you serious right now? Like, you're going to try and claim that like rap and hip hop don't fit with American culture?
Yeah.
What? So yeah, like it was just ridiculous. And people were like, that was the worst halftime show I've ever seen. It was the most watched event on TV since the moon landing. Like, maybe we should pause.
I Loved it. I'm a huge Kendrick
it.
fan. The only thing, I wish he would have like played more hits, but like it just made me realize I need to still listen to his newest album.
Yeah.
But I made a TikTok about it on our More Than a Music account.
Oh, nice.
Said,
good.
Do the people who complain about the Super Bowl show every single year like ever stop to think maybe I just actually don't like music?
Yeah,
like
that's
maybe,
a good point.
maybe you just don't like it. And you're never going to like the halftime show because you never go to concerts. You don't listen to music. And I'm reminded of this when everyone's upset about the halftime show. I'm like, yeah, they don't like music.
They're mad every year.
They don't like it. And that's okay.
I also think like it was so artistic. It was more than just like a crowd pleaser. I feel like a lot of the times the Super Bowl halftime show is let's play the biggest hits, let's make people happy, appeal to the widest audience possible. And he was kind of like, no, everything I do is intentional. And every single moment of this is going to have intention behind it. And it was phenomenal. I have gone back and watched it like 3 more times because I was just like, oh, I think I missed some. And I don't listen to rap usually because I like to sing along and it takes forever to learn the lyrics. But like when Not Like Us came out 100%, I listened, like, come on. So yeah, I have been like listening to Kendrick all week because I was like, man, he like puts intention into his lyrics the way that Taylor does. And like, I'm here for that.
His Good Kid, Mad City album is probably in my like top 5 favorite albums of all time.
Oh, nice.
You should listen to that one.
Yeah.
Front to back. It's a pretty lukewarm take, I would dare say. I know a lot of people kind of consider like To Pimp a Butterfly to be his like best album.
Oh, okay.
And like maybe it is, but like I love the Good Kid, Mad City album most.
That's great to know. I'm excited. Yeah, I just have to like the first time I listen to it, I have to sit down and read the lyrics and then
That's fair.
But to be fair, I do that with Taylor's albums too.
Yeah, of course. The thing that was crazy, so after it, I watched like a deep dive into what each line of Not Like Us means and the amount of cross references. I'm just like, what kind of memory do you have to remember this stuff? Like, how could you know like all of these reference points? I feel like people quote movie lines or quotes and I'm like, what? I have no idea what that's from.
Yeah, no, literally like incredible. After the Super Bowl halftime show was over and everything and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it, I kept thinking about that Grammy photo of Taylor holding her glass up to Kendrick.
Oh,
and I'm like, that's
whole
been
mood.
me.
Just literally.
Just like all week. I've been like, yep, that's exactly how I feel. So yeah, it was phenomenal. So good.
I know. Anyways, a tangent to start the episode.
Hey, that's okay. We were talking about the Grammys.
I know. We're like 2 weeks behind on the discourse, but we haven't had the chance to talk about it yet.
I know. And to round it back to what you were mentioning and your person, I knew that when Beyonce mentioned an unknown woman artist, for us at least, that I was like, oh, we're going to have to dive into her, like put her on the list. Like she's going on the More Than a Muse podcast at some point. So I'm excited you did it.
We are Linda Martell. She's actually still alive. I mean, obviously makes sense. She was actually featured on 2 of the songs on Cowboy Carter.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But she did 2 of the spoken word interludes.
I really loved that part of the album, especially.
There's one part, I think it's in the song Spaghetti that she's featured in, where the woman that says like genre is a funny thing. That's Linda Martell's voice.
Okay.
And then there is a 28-second like intro just called The Linda Martell Show that introduces the song Ya Ya.
Okay, fun.
That's Linda Martell's voice. First off, let me give you a brief overview of who Linda is. And then I'll talk a little bit about Beyonce and like kind of the connection there. So Linda Martell was actually born Thelma Bynum, and she was born June 4th of 1941. She's an American singer. She became the first commercially successful Black female artist in the country music field and the very first Black woman to play the Grand Ole Opry. And yeah, is honestly just credited as like pretty much being the only one. Okay, I won't give away like some of the jarring stats of just how long it takes from her to Beyonce, and like it's shocking.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not shocking, but you just wish it was better. Anyways, this is Beyonce's acceptance speech about Album of the Year. She just said, I just feel full and very honored. She also like thanked the firefighters that presented the Album of the Year award. quote, "It's been many, many years. I just want to thank the Grammys, every songwriter, every collaborator, every producer, all of the hard work. I want to dedicate this to Miss Martell, and I hope we just keep pushing forward, opening doors. God bless you all. Thank you so much." So pretty much she got the big shout out. The award was dedicated to Linda Martell for the way that she paved the way for Black women in country music and did not get the credit that she deserved at all. And this just goes to show the importance of learning about people and shouting out people who have influenced you and made a difference, because we are so quick to forget the people who paved the way. And I do think it's really cool how intentional Beyonce was for shouting her out, bringing her to light, giving her credit where credit is so rightfully due. And also, I'll talk about it later too, like the reason why she even became aware, like people were aware of her again, is because of other people who shouted her out and paid homage to her as they were growing as artists. And so it's really incredible. But
that's honestly like one of the most frustrating things about history is I feel like so many people are like, well, they must not have been that influential because the history books forgot them.
We don't remember
and it's
them.
Like, no, someone who was writing the history book had a bias and went, oh, we don't need to do that.
That's not important because I don't see the benefit for me.
Like today it got announced that all of the women in science, all of their bios got taken off of all the government websites. And that's female astronauts and scientists in the NASA program and everything. They just removed all of their bios. So that is erasure of history.
It is.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference.
Too. Yeah. The people are there. They just don't want to tell you about them.
Well, like I said, in late March, Beyonce featured Martell in 2 spoken word segments on Cowboy Carter. This is cute too. I guess right after that, she posted a photo of herself wearing a Martell t-shirt from the artist website. And I guess like 600 orders went out after that.
So awesome.
There was like a Billboard article that was an interview with her about this. And then she mentioned that like, oh, the granddaughter, who's also Linda Martell's manager, she was late, but it's no big deal because I guess the post office just took a really long time because they had to drop off 600 orders that came for her t-shirts after Beyonce posted a photo of her wearing one. Isn't that like awesome?
That's so cute. Like, oh, she just had to go drop off all the post office orders.
Yeah. And honestly, the t-shirt's like pretty cute. Like it's like kind of like a vintage cute vibe. So if you want to support, it obviously goes directly to her. Her granddaughter runs the website. So you could go support. So another cool thing that happened as a result is that her catalog streams went from 5,000 to March 22nd to 24th to 61,000 streams in 2 days from March 29th to the 31st, which was a surge of 1,000% immediately following the release of Cowboy Carter. And that's like the streams of her own songs, not like obviously the songs that she was featured in. And this attention is very overdue. From that Billboard article that talks about this, it talked about how she didn't know herself that she was making history, but she was very aware that, quote, there were no other Black guys or Black girls there on stage or off. Oh, this is the crazy thing. So Linda Martell's breakthrough single was called Color Him Father, peaked at number 22 in September of 1969 on the Hot Country charts. It remained the highest charting track on the Hot Country songs by a Black woman for more than 50 years until Beyonce's Texas Hold'em reached number 1.
Gosh.
Number 22 was the highest that a Black woman had ever been on the country charts. 22. And that's from 1969. Since 1969, it was Beyonce who broke that record.
Country music has so many.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's so messed up.
That's crazy.
That's a long time.
Mickey Guyton, who is a Black woman country singer who's been working as a country singer for a long time, I loved this. She said, quote, when I was actively pursuing country music 14 years ago, I Googled Black female country singers and Linda Martell's name come up. She wasn't previously aware of her, but she said she is truly the reason why I had the courage to sing country music, which just goes to show, like, maybe the people writing the history books aren't going to say, like, oh, that matters to me. But it does matter.
No,
and these people need to be remembered.
I feel like a broken record sometimes, but we say over and over again, it matters so much for you to see someone who looks like you doing what you want to do. It makes it feel like it's possible. Because then you can actually picture yourself doing it. And like, it just breaks my heart too, because then I'm like, Linda Martell didn't have anyone to look at.
Or anyone to advocate for her too.
Yeah.
Which we'll dive into more when we talk about her life. As Beyonce was working on Cowboy Carter, her team reached out to her manager, her granddaughter, Ann Martell, to see if she'd be interested in appearing on it, and then presented her with the script for it. Apparently, she was just like already a big fan of Beyonce's music, of course. I love this quote. It said, "One thing my grandmother will notice is a young woman who can sing." Which I love that. She's a Beyonce fan. And Linda has said that she's very, very glad to be on the album because she appreciates the music that Beyonce has brought to her music, of course. A cool thing is that she actually was already in the process of creating a documentary. In 2020, her granddaughter began working on Bad Case of the Country Blues, the Linda Martell story, which is a documentary about her grandmother. And she had nearly finished it, but recently she was able to launch a GoFundMe to cover the final touches to release the doc, to like keep the ownership for it. And she was able to do that. And she was able to get the funding for it. So the documentary isn't out yet, but I imagine it will be here soon because of all the attention that's been brought to her because of Beyonce. But yeah, so let's dive into Linda's story. So, like I mentioned, she was born Thelma Bynum in 1941, and she grew up singing gospel music at church, but also was really drawn to country music. Her father would regularly listen to the country music of Hank Williams that was based out of Nashville, Tennessee. Quote, "Until we got into our teens, we knew country music, and that was it." So she just grew up listening to it. Her sister, and her cousin actually formed a singing trio that they called the Angelos, probably Anglos. But they performed actually R&B music and just sang around Columbia, South Carolina, where she was from. There was a local DJ called Charles Big Saul Green who convinced her to change her name from Thelma Bynum to Linda Martell. Quote, "Your name is Linda Martell. You look like a Linda. That fits you." And
so she did.
I guess that was enough. I don't know. I'm like, leave it to a man. But... just be like, you don't look like a Thelma. Maybe Linda Martell is more of a stage name.
I guess. I don't know. I like the name Thelma. Kind of fun.
I think it's cute.
Yeah.
So in 1962, they took an 8-hour bus ride to Muscle Shoals, Alabama, which I wasn't familiar about that area, but there's a really big recording studio down there. Like Muscle Shoals has kind of become like a songwriter music haven. There's a lot of music history there.
In Alabama?
In Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Yep.
Okay.
And they recorded their first R&B single, and they actually renamed to Linda Martell and the Anglos. And Fire Records, a record company, released their first single, which is A Little Tear Was Falling From My Eyes. Single wasn't very successful, but they still performed regularly, sang background vocals for different groups like the Drifters, Jimmy Hughes. They released several more singles on different labels, such as Lonely Hours. They got coverage from Rolling Stones, called the song a simmering four-form girl group pop. So, I mean, we've talked about those super tight harmonies girl groups from the 1960s, but I just don't think any of their singles really took off, and their group actually ended up parting ways because her cousin got married, and then her sister soon left the group. So Linda was just left to do solo music for the first time in her career. She actually continued singing R&B music for a long time. But she was singing it on a South Carolina Air Force base, and she was heard singing country songs by a Nashville furniture salesman, William Duke Rayner. And he offered to arrange for a demo record to be made. She actually originally declined this because he thought he was a, quote, a kook.
Well, I mean, it's not every day you have a furniture salesman saying, like, let me pay for your demo.
You a star. Yeah.
You're like, how?
Why? But eventually she accepted his proposal and he became her manager. There was actually another Black country artist named Charlie Pride who at that time was doing really well, I guess, in country music. And so Rayner thought that she could be accepted as well. Quote, "I figured that if I could find a colored girl that could sing country and western, I'd really have something." Which, feels very, what's the word?
Exploitive?
Exploitive. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like, it's icky. I don't like it.
Plus, I think we've talked about this before, but country music's roots are in Black history.
Oh, yes, which is another thing that, like, that's a thesis statement of the Beyonce album, I would dare say.
So it's a little weird.
Yeah, it is very exploitive that he's like, ooh, I know what can make me a lot of money is if I find a Black woman. It's like, I don't like it. But they flew to Nashville and she met a producer named Shelby Singleton. And then she recorded a demo record, and she met with Singleton, who convinced her to record as a country singer. And she was actually surprised. So she's got two people saying like, no, you should do country music. And she just said, I was a little bit shocked. I was mostly doing pop, but he said, you gotta go country. So she did. May 15th of 1969, she signed a management contract with Rayner and signed with Singleton's. Okay, this is another thing. The record label was literally called Plantation Records.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding.
No, I'm dead. Like, can you actually believe that?
What?
Which, obviously, the plantation nameplate is derived from the slave plantations of the American South. She obviously disliked the name. I'm sure, though, she didn't really feel like she had any choice about just going along with it.
Why was that?
Yeah, it's bad. I could not believe it as I was, jaw dropped. Plantation Records.
Woo, that's bad.
But after she signed, he would find material for her to record. The first song she recorded was Color Him Father, which ended up being, I think, her biggest song. And it was a then recent pop song by the Winstons. We've talked about this a little bit, but in the 60s, it was super common for the same song to be sung by multiple people and almost to have simultaneously those songs be on the charts just by different artists with different people singing them. That was a very normal thing to happen. She recorded the song and 10 other tracks in one 12-hour session.
Oof, man.
Crazy.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, that's what, it's very exploitive, this entire thing. But that song was issued to be her first single, and it climbed to number 22 on the Billboard Hot Country charts. Its follow-up was her version of the song Before the Next Teardrop Falls. That song reached number 33 on the Billboard Country charts in 1970. And then in August of 1970, her debut album was released on Plantation Records titled Color Me Country, which is another thing too, which is I get Color Him Father. I don't think is but the fact that it's her lead single and her lead album have something the word color in it when they're oh, wow, a colored woman. It feels a little exploitive to me.
No,
I don't know how she feels about that, but
Sadie, come on. It was the 60s in the South. I think we can assume.
That's true. I don't want to speak on Linda Martell's behalf. I feel very uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, I feel the sad part is that maybe she was fine with it, but I don't necessarily think that makes it okay.
True.
Because you accept a lot of discrimination if you're used to it.
Anyways, I listened to the album, by the way, while I was doing the research. She's has an incredible voice.
Yeah.
If you love classic country style, go listen to Linda Martell's album. It's a joy to listen to. She's incredible. I feel that's obvious, but in case you need an extra stamp of approval, it's beautiful. Like I said, it reached number 40. It was reviewed very favorably. Billboard said they found her country singing style to be very authentic. I mean, she was born in South Carolina. She's a country girl. And then her final charting single was issued around the same time, titled Bad Case of the Blues. With this new success, she hired a booking agent who helped arrange several entertainment opportunities. She made television shows on The Bill Anderson Show, Hee Haw. She made her debut on the Grand Ole Opry radio show after Rayner played her recent record for the official at the company. And like I said, with her Opry debut, she became the first Black female artist to play the show. And she actually performed there 12 times. But she was definitely marketed as the first Black woman country artist.
Gotcha.
That is how they pushed her. She was almost the package deal of come to the country show where you can see the first Black country singer, Again, feels very exploitive and very gross.
Definitely.
And she would talk about how it was very challenging. Quote, she remembered being taunted by white audiences who often shouted racial slurs while she was performing. Quote, you're going to run into hecklers, and I did. You felt pretty awful. And that's what she told Rolling Stone in an interview in 2020. It's horrible, actually.
I know. It's so disgusting. I just can't even imagine doing that to anyone, ever.
Yep. She said, though, that as her career progressed, the taunting did lessen, but it never fully went away. But despite this, she kept performing. This is another sad and interesting thing. So she ran into professional issues because in 1970, Rayner sued her, the furniture salesman, because he believed that he deserved a higher commission. Apparently her producer tried to help bring attention away from the lawsuit, and he informed Martell that he would not be promoting her as heavily because he found that another woman that he had signed to his record label, Jeannie C. Riley, was selling more records. I will note that Jeannie C. Riley was a white woman. So she left her contract with Plantation and then cut several tunes for a different label. But then I guess she, quote, like, he blackballed me. It ruined my reputation in country music. And after several more years of limited success, she decided to retire from the Nashville music industry. I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm assuming he was like, oh, well, like, I'm not going to sign you. Like, I'm not going to push you anyways. And so she was kind of like, fine, I'll go somewhere else.
And then he got mad about it and bad
that was skeezy of you. And then he ruined her reputation that she did that when like whatever. And then her manager sued her for all of this money.
That's so hard too, because like back then it's not like she had like a social media that she could get on and be like, just so you all know, like this is what happened. My record label screwed me over. You know, like we've seen artists do now.
That's a true point. You know, a positive thing about social media is that a lot of times it does allow people to tell their side of the story when before, where would have they had the chance to do that?
Yeah, she wouldn't have. Like, and then like he's the one with all the industry connections. He's the producer. So then he gets to call the shots and tell everyone else what
happened.
Yeah, what he wants them to hear.
After she left Nashville, she would still perform a little bit like New York, LA, like Chicago, sang in small clubs. 1991, she returned to South Carolina to be closer to her children. And she actually became a bus driver for her home region school district. She continued to perform in band on weekends, just for families, weddings, just different performance things. I love this though, that it noted that like a lot of like people in her local area just weren't aware. Like they didn't know that she had this crazy success and was such an
how would you?
Trailblazer. I know, right? I love this though. In one high school assembly, a principal spoke of her earlier work, quote, "Others study about Black history. We have Black history right here in our own school."
I love that.
I think that's really cool. In the mid-2000s, she retired from her public school career. She last performed publicly in 2011. This is a cool thing. So I guess in January of 2014, there was a Swedish TV program called Jill's Veranda Nashville, which is translated as Jill's Porch and then Nashville, where it documented the search for and the interview of Linda Martell. And the show host traveled to South Carolina to meet her, discuss her music, and why she abandoned her recording career. They performed with her on some of her songs. So just really cool. And she actually started to become back, I guess, in public consciousness because there is a country artist named Reese Palmer who named her Apple Podcast after Martell's 1970 album, Color Me Country. So when she did that, then I think people were like, wait, who's that? What's that about? And then started learning a little bit more about Linda Martell. Another cool thing that Linda Martell does is she supports underrepresented voices of Black artists in country music through the Color Me Country Artist Grant Fund, which is really amazing.
Love that.
And then actually it was 2021 that the GoFundMe campaign was launched. I think after people started becoming more aware in 2020 to help with this documentary. And then, of course, like I said, in 2024, she appeared on Beyonce's album. On Instagram, she said, "I am proud that Beyonce is exploring her country music roots. What she is doing is beautiful, and I'm honored to be a part of it." And at the 67th Annual Grammy Awards, Spaghetti, the song that she was featured on, received a nomination for Best Melodic Rap Performance, and that became her first Grammy nomination, which is really cool.
Oh, I love that.
Yep. Another quote from her is talking about the country style. She said, quote, "Country music tells a story. When you choose a song and you can feel it, that's what made me feel great about what I was singing. I did a lot of country songs and I loved every one of them because they just tell a story." And yeah, it's just cool that like other artists were able to support her. Mickey Guyton, who shouted her out and like learned from her. Kane Brown, a country artist, has said color was a thing back then. It's still a thing today, but it was worse back then. And she was so brave. And yeah, Rissy Palmer created that podcast, quote, "paying homage to the foundation on which my house is built." And that is Linda Martell, which is really cool. Martell was actually honored with the Equal Play Award at the 2021 CMT Music Awards, and it was given to recognize her work as a female Black performer in country music.
Okay. So, yeah. That's good, I guess.
Like, I think it's like good that now they're starting to be like, oh, again, we got things wrong. I think it's okay for organizations to say, sorry, we were wrong. We didn't do that right the first time. Let's try and fix it. I don't know why we are shaming the organized. I mean, granted, they never should have done it in the first place. Like, it'd been great if people can get it right the first time.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the hope for everyone, right? That you learn and you progress.
And you say, sorry, that was wrong.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously, the people who are running it now weren't the ones running it then or anything, you know? And that's like a whole other conversation you could have about like who actually should be apologizing. But it's like, you can step up, you can make a difference and like make up for things that should have been changed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to read, so there's an article from ebony.com that's about the documentary, and they interviewed her granddaughter, who is her manager, who's helped with this documentary. And this was after like the Beyonce album came out. And I just thought some of her answers just helped shine a light on who she was that I thought was really cool. So I wanted to read these answers. The magazine asked, or the interviewer asked, how do you think this feature from Beyonce and from the documentary will impact your grandmother's legacy and the recognition of her contributions? And she said, given my grandmother is a legacy artist at this point, I feel it's been incredibly positive and a helpful impact. It's helped my grandmother because she'll see a reward from this. She went over 50 years before seeing anything from her contributions to country music. What Beyonce did was an homage to her. Beyonce is someone who can direct the culture in some ways. She's got enough influence to get you to pay attention. It just helps solidify her place in history in a lot of ways. It's crazy when you get online and you read comments like, oh my God, I don't understand how we never knew about you. Or I just listened to your album and it's such a gem. They say those things and they mean it. People were very shocked. They feel like this thing had been kept from them for so long, and it's something that, had they been more aware of, they could have been celebrating and enjoying long before. Beyonce including her on the project really brought more attention to what my grandmother has done in country music.
I feel like that's the antithesis of everything we stand for.
Yeah, exactly. Or like the thesis of everything we stand for.
Is antithesis the opposite?
Yes.
Okay, never mind. So. The thesis of everything we stand for.
Yes, we so thoroughly agree with that. I love that so much. Of just like that frustration of like, how did I not know this whole time? Like I resonate with that so much.
Yeah, like you feel robbed. Like part of you feels like something was kept or hidden from you or like taken away from you that should have been there.
Yep.
I love that so much.
Another thing she said, kind of talking about like the fact that she was a Black artist in the 60s, quote, I think people who grew up in and lived through the civil rights era specifically don't get enough consideration for what they had to go through and what they had to adapt to. First, they couldn't go to school with white folk because they weren't good enough. Then, next thing you know, they had to go to school with him. Even after integration, they just got hit the hardest with what we still deal with today. I think people around my grandmother's age don't get enough grace. It's so much to consider. It shaped who they are. My grandmother's dream was to be a singer. Even if you've been through it and been beat up enough to want to just say, never mind it, don't. Because that's what she wanted. She'd experienced so much out there looking, as she said, a sea of white faces. But she still did it. It all matters. If we don't do this, who knows what might happen to truth? Which I thought was really powerful.
That's so amazing.
The last thing I'll read is the interviewer said, Linda Martell's success in country music is often overlooked compared to white counterparts. Why do you think her story and achievements haven't received the recognition they deserve until now? Answers. To quote Amanda Marie Martinez, country music is not in the music business at all. It's in the business of selling whiteness. There was just kept away because it didn't fit the agenda. They purposely put those white male faces and voices on the television and radio. You know, it's done on purpose. I think Beyonce is arguably the biggest superstar in the world, and I think country music had to deal with that. I'm not going to say she was able to come and change things because we're talking about a system that's been in place for a very long time.
Yeah.
But she could very well be a catalyst for some major change, at least I hope. And
that's always the hope.
Anyways, it was an incredibly cool article to read about her granddaughter's perspective. And she's working on that documentary, The Bad Case of the Country Blues, the Linda Martell story. This is another thing too, is that she talked about how her mom did it with her grandma. She just sat down and recorded her telling her stories. And she was like, oh, I need to do this with my grandma. I did it because my mom did that with my great-grandmother. I've always been interested in my grandmother. She's not a braggadocious woman. We didn't know about her singing country music when we were younger. It started because we'd be out and people would call her Linda. And we'd be like, Grandma, why did they call you Linda? But I've always been so fascinated with my grandmother. She's just a smart woman. Once 2020 came, she was getting all the attention, all this press. She did the Rolling Stone article. Around that same time, my grandmother was experiencing some health issues, and she became less and less interested in doing all that stuff. I figured this thing was going to get bigger. Somebody is going to ask her to do a documentary or something, and I decided that I'm going to do it. What once was a family tradition just morphed into this other thing because underneath all of that, she's a superstar in her own right. Which is incredible. Shout out to Linda Martell and her granddaughter for just doing the most and doing the very best for her. Yeah. And it's a sad story because it's like literally they drove her out of Nashville and she worked in a school district and no one knew her past. Yeah. And no other Black woman in country was able to surpass what she did until Beyonce. Which is just crazy.
It's just racism. Like, that's all it is.
There's nothing else.
It's so frustrating because it's just like, no, the people that they're putting on the radio weren't better. Like, I think you could even argue that now. Like, how many people had to call in to get Beyonce's Texas Hold'em played on country music stations when that was the top charting country music single and they still wouldn't play it. And we've even had this conversation. They won't even put white women on the radio. Let alone anyone else. Yeah,
country
like it's
music.
Just country music has so many deep ingrained issues that like they just will not let that go anywhere.
A great episode with Laura Veltz that I'm going to shout out, who is a country music songwriter. Love her. What a friend of the pod. And we talked a little bit more about that like unfortunate side effect. And what I loved so much about that interview, I remember she just like talked about how incredible so many of the women in country are, because it's almost like they have to be so incredible to get any recognition, and they all rise to it. Like, hello, look at the Grammys this year. Who are the people making interesting art and music right now? It's the women. Yes, and I think that's because for a long time, they weren't being regarded. And so they knew they had to step up and do the very most. And now those are the women who have the most intense artistic vision and have the insane work ethic and all of these things because they knew they had to do it. You know?
But like it goes to show how good Linda Martell was to even get the little bit that she got.
Absolutely.
Because it's just like she had to be the absolute best of the best for them to even give her
a chance.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's just we're just missing out on so much talent. Like it just hurts, but it's a whole other dynamic.
And they can't say that you're mad they're doing it because they love Post Malone doing country music. So I don't know. What's the difference between Post Malone and Beyonce? A lot, but what's the main one?
What's the main one? I know, especially Beyonce has been around in the music industry for so much longer. And like nothing against Posty, love him.
Malone.
But it's just like, oh man, like if anyone has a right to try any genre they want, isn't it Beyonce at this point?
It seems like her work ethic and appreciation for music has been proven.
Yeah.
Who's
to say? Just let her do whatever she wants now.
Well, anyways, there's the Linda Martell story. And you can listen to Linda Martell on Spotify. You can listen to the Linda Martell show, listen to her introduce Beyonce's Yaya on the Cowboy Carter album, or hear her talk about genre in the song Spaghetti.
And then her upcoming documentary.
And like I said, go listen to her album. It's really nice and really wholesome. Just good 60s country music, which is my favorite kind of country music. It's like very Patsy Cline. You know, we've talked about Patsy Cline.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hope that you enjoyed listening to, dear listener. We are almost at March, which means we're almost at March Madness, which is an exciting thing because it's Women's History Month. And so we definitely celebrate Women's History Month here at More Than Muse.
Oh,
so
of course.
Stick around. We'll be showing off our merch here soon. Our exclusive 2025 March Madness merch.
Yes. If you're new here, March Madness for Women's History Month, we focus entirely on feminine rage.
Feminine rage, yes.
So it's all about that. We have episodes from last year when we started, and then this is our second
I guess that's a good point. I didn't really explain that we are not referencing basketball.
No, we are doing our own form of March Madness. Women's History Month and
the feminine rage version.
Yep. So we've got a ton of episodes planned for that. Yeah, like you said, the merch and everything. So it's exciting. It's our favorite month of the year.
Stick around for that coming soon, and talk to you next Monday.
See you then. Bye.